Emperor Pilt, new king of Old Corvosa. As invited guests, we wander in, leaving behind our friend the Paladin, who refuses to deal with us anymore, wandering off to his crusades against the Queen herself, joining the rebels to solve problems the good old-fashioned way, with violence. Marching in, we head straight into his compound, his lovely castle, and we arrive sitting in this lovely courtyard. King Corvosa, king of the new Corvosa, decides in and of itself, introducing himself slowly. Our attention had slowly drawn away from him as we spot a young boy being beaten and beaten and beaten, assumingly either out of entertainment or simply he just owes money. You never know with people who end up with debts to the new king. Degretus himself is a bit a bit irritated with knowing there's a king who's not him. As Lizard Lips decides that he wants to help the young boy, being thoroughly tricked into seeing that it is a young maid being beaten. He begins to intimidate them in hopes he can scare them off. So far, he's proven very little in his abilities to do that. The several occasions he's tried, he's completely failed each time. And this time was no different. Sure, a few more words into his just a few more words into his conversation, and we suddenly hear a dull smack, as Lizard Lips has now struck in his guards, and hopes to intimidate my muscle. And then all hell breaks loose. We begin beating all his guards. Nagridas himself does not stay close enough for that, teleporting onto a nearby roof, and taking pot shots at those who aren't thoroughly guarded against. And here's where we find just how durable our barbarian friend is, being struck several times by different people in hopes that they can do at least a little bit to him. The almost intimidating factor of that, we see the Emperor flee for his own very life. And shortly thereafter, after seeing it flee, we hear the screaming rage of the small gnome barbarian chasing after him. Shortly after, we hear the screams of the Emperor himself. We are now at a point where we can't acquire the information from the Emperor himself. Shortly after, we dispose of his thugs and follow suit, finding him being beaten and paraded by his new friend. Ironically, the barbarian decides to help him out just so he can get the last hit himself. Striking down the gnome as he wanders in, he looks upon it and sees the Emperor. The Emperor himself has no information for us, ironically. So, striking him down, we begin searching his place in hopes to find some level of information, or at least those that aren't upholded from us. We find a room filled with art from apparently the artist known as Screams. Most of this art is depicting things we are not really concerned over. One convincingly shows a foreshadowing moment, a depiction of a man with his flesh being torn from his body, and him slowly shifting from flesh into blue dragon scales, a fair omen for future prophecies. At this time, we had no concern over it. We just knew the painting itself was worth significant values. Pocketing it all for ourselves, we wander about a little farther, hoping we can find more. We find the only locked door in the building, and slowly pick it out. Thankfully, we're at least skilled enough to open locks. Upon opening the door, lo and behold, we find the artist himself, Screams, thoroughly ragged and beaten, hidden away in the back, still painting. Each painting, what he calls worse than the last. Questioning the man, we gain information to know that he does happen to know. He does happen to know what happened to Ben Carlos, which in and of itself is assuring. Demanding the information, he promises only if he has two things fulfilled with him. One was death of the Emperor, of Emperor Pilt, which we had informed him the moment he asked that was reassuredly already taken care of. He can find the body in the next room. And the second is he would only explain this information in a safe environment, not overheard. Which we have allegedly looked at in confusion on. We're already in the safest environment. There's no one here to overlook. But, with sighs of relief, we agreed to it. And we wander back home. Shortly making it back to our oh-so-favorite orphanarium. And we discussed the information, discovering that Van Carlos had been kidnapped by a local, well, yet specifically sold to a local manor. To the local noble Banor, and that he is holding him prisoner for unknown reasons, and that he had paid a large sum of money for this. Traversing forward, we receive a sudden invite from who would have guessed, the noble himself. A letter offering our way to arrive and come to his home of value. Not one to turn down a good information, the Greedus himself heads forward into that problem. And assuredly, it is probably one of the more problematic places we meet to. But all in all, I'm sure the Greedus can survive that problem. Many things have been acquired while we are doing stuff. Assuredly, we updated ourselves. I believe we at this point hit well over 13th level, so we were doing successful value. Hints of what the Queen was doing was far past our ability to notice. But beyond that, we made our trip forward, heading to a new and hidden endeavor. Slowly enough that we wouldn't even know. Either way, I'm sure the Greedus will make his survival to go for, and his new friends will hopefully be as efficient as they'd hope. But for now, I will tell you, I will see you once more. Bye-bye!